Hey everyone, welcome to episode 18 of the New Slang Podcast. I'm Thomas Mooney, and this week on the podcast, it's kind of like last week's, where we sat down with Carrie Sweeney and Wade Parks and Brandon Adams. This week, we're sitting down with another three Lubbock singer-songwriter music legends in their own right. That'd be Mike Pritchard, DG Flewellyn, and Brandon Adams again returns. We recorded this last week when they did the final Lubbock Legends show. I'm sure there's going to be more of those kind of shows scheduled in the future. But anyways, I decided, hey, let's go and just get this out now. Because, there's some amazing stories on here from Mike and DG. And they kind of talk about Lubbock music, history. And really, some of the stories that Mike and DG tell are pretty amazing. It's interesting to see how much Lubbock's changed, but then also how much Lubbock has stayed the same. It's essentially the same thing as being a Lubbock songwriter at its core is probably the same, but just the history these guys have seen is pretty amazing. Before we get started with the interview, though, I was going to give you guys a couple of notes on things. One, I guess on Monday we announced that the fall 2016 singer-songwriter competition at the Blue Light is going to be taking place this September. It's going to be the 12th, 19th, 26th, October 3rd, 10th, with the finale on October 17th. Basically, if you want to sign up, if you're a songwriter, you can sign up. All the details are at newslanglubbock.com. And it's pretty simple. It's just like any other year that we've had it, except now we have 5 preliminary rounds. And there's some really cool people who have already signed up. Spots are going pretty quickly, so if you're interested, again, go to newslanglubbock.com. There's some really cool prize packages. But again, the competition is never really about the competition part. It's about meeting all these other songwriters and connecting with these people, sharing your music. And then another thing that we're doing again is in the summer when we did a Lubbock Does Guy Clark tribute on the podcast. This September 5th, we're going to be doing one with Buddy Holly. This September 7th would be his 80th birthday if he was alive today. And so, he's from Lubbock. He's probably the biggest star from Lubbock outside, I don't know, maybe Natalie Maines. I don't know. Probably Buddy Holly. Anyways, so we decided, hey, let's do that again. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, basically what we're going to do is on Monday, September 5th, we will be recording you, if you want to sign up. We're going to record you doing your Buddy Holly song. And then also after that, you'll be playing that song plus your originals at Songwriter Night. Kind of make it a two-parter kind of thing. So, that's going to be September 5th. We'll make an event about it. If you need more information, just find us on Facebook, which is New Slang, or on Twitter, which is at newslang_LBK. Also, if you haven't heard, we announced earlier that we're going to be expanding the New Slang podcast. We'll probably change this name to something more specific about interviewing people, because we're announcing another show that'll come on the same channel. Don't worry about it. If you want to listen to it, it'll pop up right here. The second channel, or the second show, is going to be about 80s and 90s country, though. It's going to be very specific about that. We're going to have guests come on and talk about 80s and 90s country. We're going to make lists about stupid stuff from the 2 decades, and throw out some wild theories on stuff. I don't know. It's going to be a whole lot of fun, hopefully. Again, and that's something else, too. I need to come up with a better name than something like 80s and 90s country highlights or something like that. It needs to be something way cooler, way better than that. So anyways, I'll quit rambling on. 3 things to know before you leave this little podcast area, or this little intro thing, is 1, if you want to sign up for songwriter competition, go to newslanglubbock.com. It's fairly simple to sign up. 2, we're going to have the Buddy Holly tribute podcast coming in September. If you want to get involved with that, just email us, find us on Twitter, all that kind of stuff. And then I guess like probably in a month or so, we'll start our first episodes of our new podcast show, which is still needing a name, about 80s and 90s country. So, yeah. Anyways, here's the interview conversation with Mike Pritchard, DG Flewellyn, and Brandon Adams.
Gotta do what you gotta do, right?
Hell, you should have called me and Tiffany. We would have put you up.
Oh, hell, I'd have moved in. You don't want that.
I know how to get rid of people I don't like.
Ask Lacey how that worked out for her.
Musicians and you know, trying to do what they do, relationships.
Mm-hmm. It's hard. It's like it's two different things altogether.
Well, you know, a lot of that, the relationship stuff starts is you're in a relationship, especially with the opposite sex, and they met you at the bar doing what you do, and then 6 weeks later, all of a sudden, they turn into this raving maniac over what you do, and not realizing this is why y'all are together is because of what you do.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you met.
This is behind the curtain, and then they're like, "Oh, hell no!"
Because a lot of the funky stuff that goes on that we have to do on a daily basis to do this for a living, just really kind of sucks. And occasionally we have to be assholes, and you might get caught in the crossfire.
You have to be an asshole.
You know,
recording?
Yeah, we're going.
Oh.
try not to do that is you know.
Well, I will tell you this. So I've been doing this professionally now for 50 years. And I'm 64. I had my first gig when I was 14 at the La Fonda del Sol out in Escondido Canyon out there where the Spirit Ranch is now. And I was pretty cool. I was 14. I had my own car. I drove out there to my gig. I sat down there in the little bar and started playing. And the very first night of my very first gig, I got introduced into that fucking asshole that has to talk louder than you. No matter if you have the Fillmore East sound system, they have to talk louder than you. And I just sat there, and I was a little 14-year-old kid, you know, nervous to death. And this guy just, you know, and finally I would just stop in the middle of the song and look at him, and he never got it. And the other people at the table were going, "Hey, man, I think you're bumming him out." Screw it. He's just a kid.
Yep.
Yeah. So
it's still that way.
It is. You know, it is. I'm just an old age, just the old man.
I had that happen 3 days ago. So, you know.
It's a thing.
And, you know, that's one of those things about doing live stage performance, especially as a solo act, that people feel like they can bully you and intimidate you. And I think deep down inside they know it's not right, but they kind of have the upper hand somehow in that, because you don't want to be an ass over the microphone. And I could, you know, that situation 3 days ago, but it looks bad for you.
And
you're the one who winds up losing your job.
You're just feeding into what they want you to do. They're playing to what they want you to do.
Yeah.
They want you to act like them.
They want you to react is what they really want.
Okay, now what is now the Buddy Holly Center? Used to be a restaurant called the Depot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then outside in the area, the veranda, if you'll have it, or the courtyard, is what was called the Depot
Beer
Garden. Okay, so now they also had the Depot baggage room, which during the winter and stuff they would have they would have acts inside, generally solos or duos. But one night I was opening a show for Billy Joe Shaver and Jesse Taylor. And I got up and was playing, and it was packed full of frat daddies. Now, if there's any of you frat daddies out there listening to this and this offends you, fine. But these are like a pack of hyenas that run around and want everyone to see and hear everything they do and say. So anyway, I got up and I played my deal, and they were just roaring. And Billy Joe and Jesse were there because we'd been doing some gigs together, so they came in to, sit and listen. Well, anyway, when I got done, they got up on stage, and Billy Joe is playing some of this amazing music that he's written. Some of the most, you talk about a wordsmith. Billy Joe Shaver, just absolutely one of the greatest. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so he just gets through playing this song that they just yapped all the way through. And he said, all right. And he did. This is the coolest thing. I always wondered what was the best way to approach this. And he said, all right. He said, look, I want to thank all you fellas for being here. Now, aside from that, I want all of you to breathe through your nose during this next song. And they all looked at each other like, what? And then it kind of just dawned on them that he wanted them to keep their mouths shut for the next song. I thought that was brilliant. I just sat back there going, that is so cool.
Alan Dameron used to have that control over an audience. But, when a guy's wearing a black suit and has a mustache like that, you just kind of go, okay, all right. That's like your dad telling you, boy, you better straighten up and settle down there.
Yeah, like B.J. Barham, who of American Aquarium, they're playing here tomorrow. There's a solo show probably 2 years ago where they were just talking all through the opener's performance, who was John Moreland, who, if you love Billy Joe Shaver, you'd love John Moreland too. Anyways, he goes up there and he says, in 20 years, you'll lie to your kids about the day you saw John Moreland play. And everyone just kind of had that, I was talking, I guess. I shouldn't have, you're going to lie to your kids about seeing this great songwriter. And that's how I always kind of feel. It's like, in actuality, you have to shut up for 40, 45 minutes sometimes, an hour and a half sometimes. Mm-hmm. And like that, in the grand scheme of things, is not a long time to just watch somebody play.
But why are you here?
Yeah.
That's my question. And why are you sitting up front?
Mm-hmm.
There's the other one. If you're not there just come listen to the music, then get back in the corner.
Yeah. And
let the people that are to do that. But what a lot of people don't understand is the power that they have as an audience over the artist. Because it takes one table paying attention to me, and I'm off and running. If I get 2 or 3, I'm really good. If the whole room's listening, I'm in this next level. Mm-hmm. That you can't just go out there and dial it in. You have to get there to it.
Yeah.
But it's because people are actually listening to what you're saying, and and we think a lot about what we write. I mean, we don't just sit and go, Mary had a little lamb, and there's the song.
Yeah.
We think about it a lot, and we want to convey to people some. I guess the best compliment that I ever had was a review over my first release, which was Cold Jealous Fingers. And a lady wrote me, and she said, I just want you to know that I personally related to every song on the album. And that was it. I mean, no more flowers, no. That was it, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was really cool.
Is it always just like that one, you can have, 15 shows in a row where it's just, you're just doing it for the gig, the money, but then there's that one show where it makes the rest of them worth it, that kind of thing, where it reaffirms your commitment.
And you don't get those very often. I guess that's probably, well, speaking for myself, I don't get them very often. You're aspiring to that height. You want to get to that place to where you're having more than that that one great show every once in a while. And when you can capture an audience and have them listen to what you're trying to say to them, that is the ultimate. That is the ultimate. And then the quality of the music, I think, is somewhat accentuated because those people are listening.
Yeah.
You want to present this in the best possible way that you know how.
I think it doubles it.
Yeah. It's just, some kind of voodoo magic or something that they do to us. But like Mike was saying, they got this, they have this hold over us. That's why we do this. I mean,
right. Yeah, and there aren't very many logical reasons why we do this.
It ain't for the money.
It's not the money. And I always said playing music is like standing naked in front of people.
It is,
which is something that doesn't make any sense in of itself. But and there's a difference between whether you're just making a paycheck or you're like, when I used to travel on the road all the time, we played at venues that were specifically original music venues, and it wasn't a social scene as much as it was a concert scene. And it was so funny because we had all this respect everywhere except here.
Except home, yeah.
Yeah. And there's old Mike, or there's DJ. I always see him all the time.
We're just going to do what he's doing.
Yeah, and then but you want them to be there. But the ones that come in and there's a few people around town like Terry McEldowney and Sue Yeager and some of those people like that come to hear the music. And you're glad when you see them walk in.
You feel a little safer and comforted that they're there, because it's like I see those same people when I play, and it's a sense of relief a lot of times, especially when you're in that sea of frat daddies or whatever. They're the people that walk in the door and it might not take you to that level, the next one you're talking about, but at least it keeps you from sinking down into another pit of despair of playing your show, because you wrote all these songs. Most of them are from your soul, your heart, whatever, and no one gives a shit, so that makes it even worse. And then you start contemplating everything, all while you're playing a song that you wrote about your poor mother or something. You're starting contemplating your whole musical career. Like, what am I doing? I should play Garth Brooks covers or something, or whatever they want to hear,
But and that is the trap that I fall into, is because I know so much cover music that I know that if I will just go ahead and choke it back and not play this song that I'm hoping is the next Stairway to Heaven, and play, I won't do Brown Eyed Girl, but it's a for instance. But there's just so many of them that are guaranteed. I mean, you can play the best songs you ever wrote in your life, and then play old time rock and roll,
and they're hooting
and they're
and
up dancing on the table,
Yeah.
or Mustang Sally or something.
There's this writer named Chuck Klosterman who he has a couple books out of just like essays, and one of these little essays is about I guess like the phenomenon of these guys or these people who would rather go and see, in his instance it was like a Kiss cover band for like $25 versus seeing somebody play original music for $5, and it's just because of the whole familiarity aspect of it, not wanting to maybe be let down, I guess, in a way. So
I
like
don't think
rather
you can
take
fault people for that.
Yeah, no.
I really don't, because people like to hear stuff that they recognize, and it's and Lubbock has a stigma. And Lubbock's a pretty badass music community. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
And no one can deny that. But Lubbock has a stigma for going and hearing what they request. And a lot of them are not with you enough to know your stuff enough to come and request it. Because, man, it feels really great when someone hollers out, hey, Mike, play Jacqueline, or, play Out of My Lonely Mind or something you wrote. And ta-da! I'm so happy. But it's those times when no one's paying attention. And here's the new thing, and it's not new to you because you're a kid and you're getting middle-aged. But
I like it when y'all call me a kid.
He's still a kid.
Makes me feel
you
real
are a
good.
freaking kid, man. Are you kidding me? But you know what I see now? I see glowing faces in the audience.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm happy because at least they're not yelling at each other. They're on the phone. And that's kind of a new. I mean, the Beatles didn't ever have to get up and play a gig in front of 50,000 people on their phone.
On their phones, yeah.
Yeah.
Rain Uptown the other night, I had two ladies watching YouTube videos louder than me in the middle of my song. And I stopped playing, and, of course, everybody's turned around looking at them, and they're just off in their own little world doing their thing. And Mark comes over, and he says, what's going on? I said, I'm waiting for these ladies to get done with their activities so I can go on with the song. And he said, you need some coffee? I said, yes, please. So at least he understands I am not going to waste my time battling with them. Mm-hmm. I could turn up, but there again, here I am being the asshole. I'm that, that's that asshole guy that, turned the music all up and, got real loud. Well, I got 10,000 watts up here. I'll blow your ass off.
It's an interesting phenomenon. It really is, and it's something. It's kind of weird. Junior Vasquez has got his listening room out at the Caprock Winery, and he's Zika virus, and he
Yeah. The Zima virus.
and he gets up before. He gets up before you play, and he says, now, everyone in here right now, silence your phone. And I mean silence it. Turn it down. Turn it off. And if you get a call and you have to take it, then quietly get up and leave. Mm-hmm. And if you want to talk to each other during the deal, then go outside and talk, because this is a listening room. And, well, there's this sudden reverence there. Now there's a difference between doing that kind of a deal and doing honky tonks like this.
Right.
Because there's people that come in here and all they're interested in is some bootay, and
a few drinks to get their courage up to get the bootay.
And they want everybody to see them and hear them and do all that, and that's fine. There's a place for it,
Yeah.
And I spent a great part of my life in, remember that old show Roadhouse? Where Jeff Healy's band's up there and they got the chicken wire in front.
Yeah,
I've played joints like that.
I have too.
And I had to stop in Midland one night while the guy was pulling out the gun on the leader of a biker gang and telling them they weren't allowed in the room. Oh, and all this is going on right in front of me. And I said, hey, you guys are screwing my show up. And it was really strange, but the listening room thing is really, in bigger cities, there's a lot of that.
Yeah. It's kind of strange though that it's a bigger stigma to have your phone on in a movie theater than it is like in a listening room or like in a music venue. You know what I mean? Like,
and both should be taboo. But that is the newer generation of techie kids, I guess. And I shouldn't even say that because there's some old folks out there with their with their tech on, and they're the worst ones because they're doing business or doing what they think is long range big relationships with a woman in 3 different states over or something or other, and it's important that they connect on the next flight and get their motel straight and that kind of garbage. Whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't want to hear about it while I'm in the middle of a tender love song.
Yeah. But it sure is cool when everyone gets rolling with you And it happens a lot. It happens a lot.
House concerts are another
Really
great
cool
venue.
medium. That's a great medium, yeah.
I did my first house concert back in the early '80s, and as a matter of fact, with Alan Dameron up in Amarillo, and he had just got done with Kerrville Folk Festival and was coming through doing his little tour, and he was also during that time the laureate of music for the state of Texas. So he was doing a lot of that public, Miss America kind of stuff. And so when he got to do something like that, it was very special. And I'm playing, and I'm in the middle of the song, and I see him put his glass down and look up, and he starts to twirl his mustache. He has that little David Nevin kind of mustache. And I'm like, okay, so I got his attention. So I finished the song and everything, and I'm tuning my guitar between songs, and he's quoting back the lyrics, and he says, "Did you ever enter the songwriter contest at Kerrville?" I said, "Yeah, 4 times." And so I'm tuning going. And he says, "Did you ever get call, or did you ever play there?" "No." And he said, "Well, those people are idiots." He said, "You should be doing that festival," which I never did on the main stage anyway. But the thing that I told him is it wasn't about that; it was about what we were doing right there, because that was one of those crazy nights to where we afterwards I played a gig at a biker bar. I know you know that place in Amarillo. The owner's name was Pillsbury. It was right by the stripper bar.
Right by Boondocks?
Boondocks.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Boondocks. Yeah.
I'm playing the show, and it's like you were talking about a while ago. These guys are fighting and down on the floor with knives and stuff. These bikers.
Yeah.
And he's shooting into the ceiling with a 9mm. And I was playing. I can't remember. Oh, it was Mr. Bojangles. Mr. Bojangles started off as a nice ballad, and it was like somebody was running at the end of it. Because all I could think of was somebody told me years ago, "Don't ever quit playing. Just keep playing."
Because it'll draw attention to you.
Yeah. So I kept playing. Okay. Roll forward. 10 minutes later, the owner, Pillsbury's got all these bikers lined up in a line, running them by the stage with their wallets, making them say, "I'm sorry I was fighting during your set," and putting money in the tip jar with his gun still out. And I'm just shaking, This is the craziest gig I ever had. Graham Warwick got me into that gig.
Brother Graham.
He called up and said, "DG, you're going to love this." And I learned that when Graham called me and said, "You're going to love this," you just run the other way.
Yeah, I'm assuming that night just was the culmination of everything that you love and hate about playing music.
Yeah. So
I
got everything all in one night.
Yeah. The Kerrville Folk Festival, I guess that's still going around, right?
Yeah.
Like the first time I heard about it, it was in that legendary aspect of it, right? Like these, like Guy Clark and Lyle Lovett and all these guys winning these.
Willis Allen Ramsey too.
Yeah, well,
that was the very first story I'd ever heard about Kerrville Folk Festival, was that Willis Allen Ramsey played there. He doesn't play ever.
Yeah.
So I was like, no shit. And I heard that he was an hour and a half late for his set, and he got up and played 30 minutes, and everybody was so happy. They're going back next year, It's things like that kind of makes everybody's day at the folk.
Yeah, but Towns Van Zandt and Guy Clark and all those people used to play there regularly. It was.
I don't know who headlines it now.
Well,
I don't either.
One of my buddies had found a link to one of their old pages of. They were trying to update as far as who were winners and who had played each year, and you just look through those names and it's like, well, shit, man. There's everybody was
The
playing
who's
this.
who.
Yeah, and yet there's names you're like, I don't know who the hell this is. You're not gonna ever find the music, but I guess they were doing all those compilations there for a while too.
Yeah, yeah.
Just of
Yeah, there was a deal on
recording.
Facebook today that someone posted about a bunch of the old Kerrville Folk Festival, and it was like when Butch Hancock and Jimmy Dale Gilmore, Joey Lee, and those guys were really young dude. David Howley and Tommy Hancock, and all these people are from Lubbock, and they're all down there and they're ruling the roost. I mean, they were absolutely running the show down there, and it was very cool.
I think we got some good Tommy Hancock stories out of Kerry Sweeney on the last
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
last.
I have a question for you guys. Well, I mean, I don't know if
Go
it's
ahead.
cool to ask a question. So, did you, DG and Mike, did y'all ever participate in the tornado jams that
Oh, yeah.
went on down here?
I played
I
at all of them.
You didn't?
I didn't. No.
Mike, you played them?
Yeah, but I played them with bands, and
Right.
and it was it was a medium for bands. There were very few
Yeah.
very
so
few
that's-
single or duo acts back then. But yeah,
Yeah.
I played in all the tornado jams.
How long did that last? Like, when did they start and when did they end?
I think there were 3 or 4 of them, 4 maybe.
4?
Yeah, because
that
they
sounds
started
about
in '81. I think there were 3 or 4 before the city of Lubbock decided that all the crowds out there were ruining the natural buffalo grass that hundreds of millions of buffaloes stomped over and watered and shit on for 1,000 years.
And they were smoking marijuana
Oh, darn.
and leaving their beer bottles behind. And, dude.
All right, there was a guy named Jim Casey that was the manager at Fat Dogs, which was one of the most legendary clubs ever of Lubbock. And anyway, he was dating Rhonda Odom, and Rhonda's dad was Ron Odom, that owned Ron Odom's Honky Tonk,
yeah.
which was the roughest, toughest, brawling, knife and gun, bucket of blood club in Lubbock. Okay, anyway, so Jim's real mild-mannered guy. He's about 6'8", real tall dude. Anyway, so Rhonda talked her dad into letting them take his 40s model Rolls Royce out to the Tornado Jam. So they got out there and they drove it down on the grass and they parked it on the hill. Well, okay, the stage was on the north side of the water, and all the people were down on the south side of the water, and they had this thing parked facing south on an incline, and then someone screams, "The Rolls is rolling." And it rolled into the Buddy Holly Lake. Yeah. That was a great. And I remember Jim Casey going, "It's been nice knowing you, because her dad's going to kill me." They came and fished it out, but yeah, that was the early '80s.
I think somebody ought to bring them back, honestly.
They've tried.
Yeah.
They've tried.
There's, that and trying to have a real Buddy Holly festival. I mean, I don't understand it.
Evidently, his widow is very stubborn
Well,
about that.
let me tell you, let me just say this. Lubbock poked the pooch on this whole deal. Because when all this started, golly, DG, how long ago was that?
The
When they
festival.
first started having the Buddy Holly Festival, and this was mid '80s, maybe a little
I think the
earlier.
statue went up like in '81 or something.
Well,
like
yeah,
that.
but this was actually a thing, and then the city of Lubbock embraced it. Well, Marie Elena Holly wanted $20,000 to give the city of Lubbock the rights to use Buddy's name, and they wouldn't do it. $20,000. That's not even a real expensive car.
It's not
You know.
even what Josh Abbott charges.
Oh yeah, I read that article.
Yeah, it's in the paper. Like, I know what he charges. So that's less than Josh Abbott concert right there.
Okay, so now if they'd have just done that, okay, because like, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago, Graham Nash was here in Lubbock, and he showed up over here at La Diosa, where my hat trick band that is really almost a Crosby, Stills and Nash tribute band. We just played that music over and over and over. He came in, and because he was doing an expose at the Buddy Holly Center, and he played with us. He played a whole hour with us. It was amazing. It was fun. But we got to talk to him a lot. And he had talked to some people, and he found out about that story and some other stories, and he goes, what the fuck is the matter with the city of Lubbock? Do they not understand who Buddy Holly was?
Yeah.
And I really don't think they do.
And
goes
as
back to
they've
what you
gotten
were
younger, the city government has gotten younger, they have less understanding of who he was in the world.
I think that goes all together with what you were saying, and you too, the unwillingness of the people, of the majority of the people in Lubbock to embrace their artists here.
Right.
Because you can go somewhere else. Obviously, Buddy had to do it, and get, it's where you get your respect and your money and your whatever you want out of the music industry, but you can't get it here.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's changed over the years, because I definitely got what I have here, and I'm thankful for it. But
I think the tourism would be just off the charts here if they would embrace the music scene, if they would pay the musicians. And once again, as musicians, our job is to come in and do our job and give the clubs and what have you their money's worth, regardless as to whether we're having to be talked over or whatever. We got to do whatever we got to do to get our job done. We can't be falling down drunk and half stepping on our end of the deal. But right now, the problem seems to be is clubs don't want to pay us. We're out here doing our end of the deal, and the salary's been cut in half from what it used to be. And we're working for the same pay that Ray Charles was working for when he started out. That scene from that movie where he's complaining about the money, that brought tears to my eyes, because we are working for that same damn money right now.
yeah,
And the thing is, we're on stage with $10,000 worth of gear and pouring our hearts out,
And 30 years of work.
and work putting this together. This does not come overnight. I know there's kids out there that are very talented, that and prodigies and that kind of deal. But that's the one in a million guy. You don't get a Stevie. We'd have a Stevie Ray Vaughan on every corner if that be the case. But those guys only come along once in a while.
And there's thousands of them out there that just never get hurt.
Yeah.
And this business is all about right place, right time, who you hook up with.
And who you know, and who you know.
I think a lot of it has to do with the hard work, the working on your honing in on your talent. But a lot of people don't want to acknowledge the luck aspect of it. That one guy walking into the club at that one right time, you playing that one song, and
just
hypothetically getting that record deal,
just
or whatever
like
the case
J-Boy
is.
Adams hooks up Todd Caldwell with a chance to play keyboards with Bonnie Raitt. And so he goes and he auditions. Well, at the audition is Stephen Stills. And he hears Todd. Well, the next thing you know, Todd's playing with Stephen Stills, Jackson Browne. Now he tours with Crosby, Stills, and Nash. He plays with, he's a notable because of this one audition that he got to go to. But, they're, and especially in Lubbock, oh my God, the people are talented here. Oh, I mean, everywhere you go, Like when back in the 80s and even the early 90s when I was touring a lot, we would go to like one story, for instance. We went to a bar in Denver. We used to play that regularly called Ziggy's. It's the oldest bar in Denver. And anyway, so we got up there on a Thursday, and we were going to play Saturday and then host a jam on Sunday. And we had a Friday night off. So the bar owner says, "Hey man, the best blues band in Denver is playing at this big giant venue. It's the biggest place there. I can't remember the name of it now, but so we all went there, and I mean we went in style. He had a limo. We all went in a limo, and we sat at the VIP table, and we got there, and this is a really big place. I mean it's big like Billy Bob's, and so we go in and we sit down and we start drinking and everything. There's a band playing. And so the band that I came to hear was Milton, somebody in this mean street. And so we're sitting there at this bar, and I said, "So when is Milton playing?" He said, "Oh, that's him." And man, I mean, it was mediocre. I mean, it wasn't even as good as some of the jams around town. And so anyway, I said, "Well, I'll introduce me to the guy, and I'll invite him to come out to the jam." And he said, "Oh, he quit coming to the jam about 5 or 6 years ago. He won't come. He never will come." So anyway, they introduced us, and I invited him to come Sunday. He showed up. All right. I had a little guitar player named Victor Camacho.
Oh yeah,
playing guitar with me. That was one of the best guitar players I ever heard around here, but he was just a hopeless alcoholic. I mean, he couldn't be fixed. But anyway, so we're up there playing, and I invited Stanley Milton was his name. I invited him to come up on stage and play with us, and so he came up and plugged in and everything. We're playing, and they're throwing licks back and forth. I had to go over and ask Victor to reel it in.
Yeah.
I said, you're, because you could tell it was bumming him out. And Victor was just, cutting his head off. And I just went over and said, "Hey man, look, really, but that was the standard of music in Lubbock is so excellent, and the songwriters and the younger guys are making the big names. You guys are doing really good. You have so much more advantage now than we did, than DG and I did. If I would have had YouTube,
yeah, you're right. The internet has made a huge difference in what we do. Just for the fact of you can communicate when your shows are on a really, and you share your music. I mean, it's not always the best thing because your music gets spread around the world for nothing, and you don't see any return from that. Like
getting
you would
paid is hard.
Selling like records back in the day, where music was less accessible, and you can directly get your money from that or make a living from it. Now it's a lot more spread out, but yeah, the internet's helped out. But I don't want you to think too that we just fell into it. Like, I've worked my ass off over the last 10 years to create those opportunities.
Yeah, we know that.
And change this town quite a bit. I'm not saying I did it. There's a whole lot of people who did here, but it's one of those things. We never played covers. I did at first for like a year or two, and we played our music in every corner, every shithole, every great place, every barn, every yard, we moved so many foosball tables to put our PA up, Y'all know exactly. Yeah. We're all still doing it, but that's what it created those opportunities. And thank you guys because y'all gave us an audience to start out with, especially and a stage to play on because we didn't know shit.
Well, and yeah, in answer to that, you're welcome. But no, I don't. I'm not saying that you guys deserve every bit of it.
Well, I'm just saying it's like the younger community here really took what y'all guys had, which when I met all of y'all were friends. That's what I knew.
Yeah.
You're great at what you do. Yeah. And I love to watch you play. But you're friends, and
We had a community.
absolutely, and that's what I fell in
We
love
still
with was
do.
the community, and then we work, we are still doing it. That's what we're doing today. We're working together, trying to build our community and build our audiences. We're going to combine some audiences tonight, which is what is really thrilling to me, and we've done it a couple times. It's really nice, and I think it's awesome for the city of Lubbock and for our music community because it just spreads what we do around, and it lets the people here know that they're going to be here for a while. A lot of people stay here for a long time, and a lot of them, if they don't know you, they've heard of you, but they've never gone to watch you.
Right, right.
So we're trying to fix that, and then where you go, I want the people to acknowledge where they're going to watch shows, and I want the artists to also acknowledge where they're booking shows. Because I think there's a burden on both communities, the audience and the musicians, to provide a great night of entertainment and to for the audience to be interactive with that. So it's like I just want everybody to kind of think about it, take a little step back, and make it about what it's honestly about: friendship and music.
Mm-hmm. You want them to give them an event.
Right.
Event. Plus,
Something
there's
to be
another
excited
thing
about.
that's going on really, a renaissance here, is the recording industry in Lubbock. What Scott Ferris is doing over there, what Wally Moyers is doing.
Don Caldwell's back in the studio now.
Yeah. These guys are, and Wally Moyers and I have known each other since we were 10 years old. And I recorded my second album with him, and it's wonderful. He's great. He's so connected and so talented. But what Scott Ferris is doing over there at the amusement park and Ferris Wheel Productions is really outstanding.
Who do you go record with, DG?
I don't have a studio right now. Haven't done anything in a number of years because of various, things to suck my money. But the last time that I was recording, it was not like this, and I had 5 studios close on me while I was doing Different Point of Blue, and cost me in the neighborhood of $27,000 to paste it together. And everybody's really their own worst critic as far as that goes. But all of the things that we had to cut and all of the things we had to do to paste that together, I was not happy about. But all of the studio closings here during that time just really made it really hard to get that CD done. And the last 2 studios that I used were in Wiley, Texas, and in Dallas. And both of them are gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of them closed shortly after the owner was doing a session, and he always kept a big old barrel of beers out in the lobby for whoever was recording. And one of the guitar player's son, 16-year-old son, got half of the beers and went on a joyride and wrecked his car and killed somebody.
Ouch.
And that guy went to jail for serving. The studio owner went to jail for serving minors,
Man.
which I don't think was right. But somebody had to pay. Pound of flesh.
Man.
But there are really a bunch of studios here, and you can kind of choose what fits you and which way to go right now. I'm hoping to get back in the studio before I get too old to do it. I've had the songs and had everything. I had all the songs ready to go and had 6 songs down, and was transferring to a hard drive, and the hard drive caught on fire, and I lost 3 years worth of work. So after that, it's been just a battle to,
Ouch.
Yeah, and everybody, it was like, why didn't you back it up? Well, that's what I was doing. When you're backing it up the way you're supposed to, and your little hard drive fan goes out and it catches on fire, there's not much you can do about that. That's one of those acts of God.
Well, Brandon Adams, what you're doing right here with this little 3-night series you did this summer is awesome.
Thanks.
It really is, and I mean, it's kind of lacing up the Lubbock boots, because you are introducing a younger group of people to some of those people that have been around a long time, and they're just not getting a chance to listen.
Right.
And I think this is super cool.
Yeah.
It really is. It really is.
I think you should continue doing this.
That's what I told him too.
I'm pretty sure it'll happen.
What I think, like last month, whenever we did it with Wade and Carrie, one of the things I said was, that Brandon's really like bringing these two generations of musicians together, right? Like the guys like you from the 90s, early 2000s, 80s, and trying to get these songwriters who are going around right now to not necessarily form up, but at least be acquainted with each other, know what you're who's been around, what's coming up, what's been in the past. One of the things that me and Brandon have always kind of talked about was I guess in like Lubbock history, it's easy to go back to the touch points of like the Buddy Hollies, the Joe Ely's and Flatlanders and Terry Allen. But there's these gaps of time where, just the history has kind of not been written. It's not been put down on paper.
No,
or at least on the internet. You know what I mean? It's harder to fill in those gaps, figure out what was going on, and that's one of the things that I'm interested in.
I think that's what you're doing right here is kind of, at least with some of the stories, to mark a place in time that gives people an idea of what was going on during that period of time here. And it wasn't all bar brawls and that kind of
No,
deal.
of
But
course, yeah.
You know what you ought to do sometime is you ought to get in touch with me. I'll offer to do this. Get in touch with me, and I'll bring about a dozen people. There's a guy in Lubbock named Bill Winter
No, Bill.
that knows every name of every musician that played in every band and has pictures of most of them. Ralph DeWitt from Ralph's Records
Yeah.
is just a walking Bible of Lubbock music. There's a, and you need to do this while you're still around. Because, people are dying left and right, and they're taking it with them.
Yeah.
we're getting a little down the road a piece, and this is kind of our age group right here. Most of these guys who have this information, and it's not necessarily musicians like Mike was saying. A lot of these people were people who were just interested in music and fans and concert goers, and you'd be amazed at the wealth of knowledge that they have.
That made it possible, And we could even start a campaign of, hey, everybody, bring us your pictures of the 60s and the 70s.
They probably know more about
bring
your
us your
shows
stories,
than you do.
Because and I'll tell you this. Now, I'll tell you this honestly. I've lived the piss out of my life, okay? And I played hard. And so I have people come up to me all the time and go, do you remember that night you did this or that?
No.
Nope. Not a clue.
Yeah. I know one night there was a guy that was doing a striptease in front of us at the Main Street Saloon, and I dumped a full pitcher of cold beer right on top of his head and never even missed the lyric of the song. And Eddie Weir named that the Great Fag Dousing of 1989 because he was coming on what was his name? John Paul Cravens.
John Paul Cravens.
Yeah, and he was undoing his shirt, and I was going to stop that. I got him.
We're going to put the fire out right here.
Well, I guess like one of those things with anything in history is like the stories happen of, I guess like where, stories become legendary. Those shows, like certain shows, stick out where insert name walked in and like kind of like what you're talking about with Graham Nash, you know, just
Yeah.
coming over. What are some of those stories? What's like the most memorable? We were up on stage, insert name walked in and started playing, or whatever the case is.
Oh, I guess I had Whitesnake come into my jam session one night and wanted to get up. John Sprott was playing guitar, and they immediately said, "Oh yeah, we got to get up and teach this boy something."
They didn't do that.
And when they crawled out the door 30 minutes later, because they couldn't depress the strings on John's guitar, because the action was an acoustic guitar instead of an electric guitar with 8s on it.
Yeah, I was running the jam up at Main Street Saloon one night, and James Cotton came in. And if you don't, and probably your listeners won't know who James Cotton is, YouTube him. He was one of the old original black harp players, and I mean, could just tear it up. And then there's a lot of them. A lot of the stories from Fat Dog's, where Albert Collins had come in, or Stevie Ray Vaughan would come in, and Delbert McClinton would come in a lot of times. One day I was down there and Vincent Price came in. And I was down there one afternoon at Fat Dog's, and no one was there, and I was up there having a beer, and this little feller with the long blonde hair came up and sat down, ordered a beer, and started talking to me, and said, "Do you want to play pool?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So we started playing pool, and so he said, "Well, what do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm a contractor and a musician." I said, "What do you do?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm a musician." I said, "Oh yeah," and so we played a little more. I said, "Well, who do you play with?" And he goes, "Cheap Trick." And I said, "Oh, you're Robin Zander." "Yes, sir." And he goes, "Now, you just won $10 from me playing pool. We're playing again." I said, "All right." So I cleaned his clock.
Welcome to West Texas.
So it was really fun. He gave me tickets to the show, and then he called me the next year. He got my number from the radio station. He called me, invited us to his show. And then one other quick episode that this happened probably about, how long ago did the Mean Woman close in Levelland? Because it was on their last
7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah, something like that. Well, anyway, one day me and my wife were walking up to the Home Depot, and I saw a tour bus pull in, and all these guys, you can recognize guys on the road. They come falling out of the van, and they're all staggering up to the Home Depot, and so we started walking on together, and I said, obviously y'all are a band. Are you playing in town? And they said, yeah, we're playing at what was that called? Bleachers. And he said, we're playing at Bleachers. He said, it's our first night. We're on a Texas tour. And I said, oh yeah. And they said, yeah. I said, where are you from? They said, California. And I said, what's your name? The guy said, my name's Frankie Hanlon. And I said, well, nice to meet you and everything. And he said, well, you might have heard of us before. We're formerly Tesla. And I said, oh yeah, okay. So I recognized him. And he said, well, we've lost one or two of the members, but this is the Frankie Hanlon Blues Band now. And so this is our first night in Texas, and we're real excited. So I said, well, I'm playing at the Mean Woman in Levelland from like 6 to 8. I said, as soon as I get done, I'll come down there. So I bought me a pint of Jack Daniels at Opie Doc. And drank it while I was playing my little 2 sets, And I came down here and I went over there, and they weren't in yet. So I came over to Tom's Daiquiri, and I had a couple of daiquiris. I went back over there, and I walked in, and the guys on the band said, yeah, let him in. Of course, I knew the door guys anyway. So I go in there, and Mike Driver from FMX is sitting over at a table, and so I went over and sat down with him, and he said, "Hey, how's it going?" We sat down. The band's playing a song. They get through playing, and there's 3 guys and 2 girls, and they start jeering the band. Y'all suck. You're not Tesla. Y'all suck. And this guy's grabbing his crotch and flipping the band off. Y'all suck. And I just looked over at Mike Driver, who Mike Driver is a FMX DJ here in Lubbock, legendary. And I said, "How long has this been going on?" He said, "Every song." And I said, "Well, what? Does the management do anything?" He said, "Nope." So they played another song. It was great, by the way. They were killing it. And they get through, "Y'all suck. Fuck you guys. You know, y'all." And so I said, "Hey, Mike," I said, "let's go over and kick their asses." And he said, "No, man, we can't do that, Mike. We're notables around here. We can't do that." And I said, "I'm not going to put up with this very long." So after the next song, they did it again, and I got up and he goes, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to go pick a fight." So I went over, and one guy was standing up, one guy was sitting down. I grabbed the one guy by the neck, and I said, "You guys are the biggest assholes I've ever seen." And this guy says, "Oh, yeah, well, you can suck my..." Oh, man, I knocked his little ass clear over that table. And I had the other guy by the neck, and I told that dude, I said, see, I hit you before you got the dick out of your mouth." and so anyway, the bouncers grabbed me, and I'm going, "Hey, y'all can let go of me. I've done your job. You know,
Really?
I've done your job, so y'all
Not
can
even
let..."
going to charge you money for
Yeah.
it.
And so I said, "I'll tell you what, I'll just leave." And I said, "You 3 little girls, come on outside." And so I go outside. I'm standing on the corner. Yeah, this probably was 8 or 9 years ago, because I'm standing out there right on that corner over there, just huffing and puffing mad. And I'm thinking, here I am. I'm 55 years old. I'm standing out here drunk because I had a good buzz. And I'm waiting to brawl with these guys over here. And the guys in the band were great. So anyway, I went ahead and left. And the next year, Mike Driver called me and said, "Hey, the band Tesla's playing over here at the Wild West. They want you to come over." So I'm going to shorten this story. Anyway, so we came over after our gig, went out on the bus, and me and my wife went out there. And they were going, "Man, we've told your story 1,000 times. It's the greatest story." And he said, "You know who really, really, really loved this story the best? My father-in-law." And I said, "Well, that's really cool." And he goes, "No, but you know who my father-in-law is?" I went, "No." And he said, "Dickie Betts from the Allman Brothers." And he said, "He's dying to meet you." So I need to go find him.
Yeah,
Introduce
Still
myself.
waiting on that intro?
I'm lucky I didn't tell this story from jail, though.
Yeah.
we've all had a few of those
Yeah.
where we woke up the next morning and went,
Oh, man.
might ought to
Yeah.
dial it back just a little bit.
Okay, the next morning about 8:30, my brother calls me and said, "What'd you do last night?" And I said, "What?" And he goes, "Well, yeah, it's on the radio this morning because Driver was
Oh,
just
my.
Yeah.
it was all over the
See,
air."
mine never made the radio, right? Fortunately.
Yeah, at least, yeah, you might not have your songs on FMX, but he'll tell them good stories about you.
Yeah.